Hello guys, I'm here to talk with you about Python as an OOP teaching tool in the Information Systems course at the State University of Minas Gerais, here in Brazil. Well, my name is Tiago, and firstly I would like to thank you for the opportunity. For this opportunity to talk a little bit about education, to talk a little bit about Python. So I've been teaching since 2010 here in Brazil in a small university called UEMG. I teach at Information Systems course. I live in a small town named Ituiutaba. Well, during my master's degree, I studied a little about gamification and how we can use these mechanics of gamifications, these mechanics that is used in games, and how we can use this in other ways. For example, in education, how can we teach in a better way using games mechanics? So, in other words, the concern of teaching and how to teach better, how to teach in a profitable way for students has always been in my goals as a teacher. So, and of course, English is not my main language, so I apologize in advance if I make any mistakes. Well, our goal is to share the experience of using the Python language to teach object-oriented programming too. Difficulties found, pedagogical approach that I used, exercise, practice performed with our students. This is our goal here, to share with you a little experience of what I've been doing to teach in a better way. We'll talk a little about the difficulties we encountered, how we conduct all this work with our students, and how we are always aiming on real-world activities. Well, one of the biggest problems found here in Brazil in technology courses, mainly in technology courses, is the high level of evasion. Many students, a lot of students of all ages, start studying computer science or any other course in this area, for example, system information, but they end up being disappointed by the difficulties found on the course, on the first year, on the second year. Here in our country, here in Brazil, unfortunately, the early years of school and what we here call high school do not provide a strong foundation in math, for example, in other areas too, but specifically in math, the students don't have a strong foundation. And this way, many students arrive here in the college with difficulty in math and logical thinking, with difficulty also in writing. So this lead a lot of students, this lead many students to drop out or changing course to a different course that don't have a strong emphasis in math, just in the first few months of study. Well, here we have, for example, some data taken from a survey carried out here in Brazil that shows a drop rate of 69% among technology course students. This is a high number. This is a high number. Even more, considering the number of slots available for work here in Brazil and around the world with tech. There are a lot of slots, there are a lot of opportunities on work careers to work with technology here in Brazil and all around the world. But despite this, even considering this, our students are dropping out. So it's also worth remembering that with the pandemic that we are still living right now in 2022, many vacancies that previously existed only in large shopping centers, in large centers like São Paulo, became remote work. A lot of companies that in the past used to have slots available just on their cities are now we have now remote work or work from home. As a result, the number of slots available to people who live in small towns like mine has increased significantly. Basically, it's possible to work in any company in the country here in Brazil or around the world. And even with the end of pandemic, most of these slots will remain remote. A real transformation has taken place in the labor market. Here again we have another research. Sorry, it's written in Portuguese. But this research is showing that the greatest difficulty for students in subjects involving logic and programming. Just to make the most of the time, I won't read it all. By the way, it's also in Portuguese, but I will supply all sources in the presentation, and will be published on the speaker deck after our talk. One more survey here. This is another from 2018. Also shows academic performance as a possible source of evasion from the courses. Of course, there are many factors. Such as financial. We have also a lot of students that have to work during the day to support themselves, to support their families. Even the location where they study most of times are far from the university, far from the college. But it's also worth remembering that the difficulties with logic and math are there. They are always there. And the scheduling is an important factor. Well, all of us in the field of programming, technology know that it all starts with the hello world. Whether it was done in the past in Clipper, in Basic, Delphi, Java or Python. It turns out that for many years here in Brazil, college teachers, professors used C++. They always in the past used also Java as the first contact language for students. And by the way, part of the problem, maybe the main problem, is here. These two code snippets have the same goal. Here we have the same goal. To make the hello world example. For those who have never had contact with programming, which of these, the first one or the second one, is easier to understand? The first piece of code that you can see here above, if I need to teach the students, I have to teach them what is a class. what is the meaning of the void word? Why we have a main word here? And what is a string? In the Python code, everything is more direct. We have a less verbosed code and therefore easier for the student to understand. It's also easy to teach them why this code is here, why we have a print, and why I have this snippet of code this way. It's easier. I really like this phrase because it focuses on experience. In other words, to learn, you need to effectively do and experiment. There is no easy way to learn just reading a book. For example, you can't learn how to program just reading. You can't learn how to program just listen to somebody give a talk about programming, about classes, about how to make a program that reads a data set on a SQLite, for example. No. We have to actively experience, we have to training a lot to make a practice on a daily and a weekly basis. Of course, we all know that in the university itself is based on theoretical knowledge, but it is also important in this preparation of career for the study of technology course that we really focus on the practical part. Precisely for this reason, experimentation and the practice, both of them, is a fundamental part of learning, mainly on programming. So, based on this scenario, based on these difficulties found, the objective of the work, the objective of my work in the past 3-4 years ago, when I began to teach object-oriented programming, was to develop a pedagogical approach, a way that would make easy to the student learning, always starting on a simple way and gradually increasing the challenge and gradually increasing the involvement, making it hard on small steps. So, the first part about lectures, we know that in the university we have a lot of teachers, a lot of professors with extensive academic careers. And we have teachers also that have work experience in the technology field. We have teachers that have experience in programming and project management, working on an IT company. This is very, very nice, and this makes the difference to the students because we are able to work on a more practical class aimed at the professional development. It's worth remembering also that the teacher is always, and the teacher is still the central role in the teaching and learning process. We have books, we have programming, we have lecture, we have a student with a focus to learn, but the main subject, the central role on this process of teaching and learning is the teacher. So, the first step, we must find a way that is easy to get started. Instead of focusing on a process where the student would have to install IDE, libraries, MySQL, and the other software just to start developing, we chose to use an online tool that allows the student from the first minutes of the class to start working with that language. So, we chose to use REPL software that allows the student to work from anywhere, start development almost immediately. You can also start programming at home, on your lunch time, and then access your entire portfolio from college. We always encourage students to keep their codes on this platform and solve all activity, all lists of exercises, to make all their practicing using REPL, using the REPL software. So I do not work at REPL, but it's a great tool to teach. So on the right side we have the Python interpreter, and on the left side we have the code. Here is one of the first exercise lists. The second point that we are always aiming is to have a clear problem definition. We noticed that many times the students start trying to solve certain problems, trying to program without even having understood all that needs to be done. They even understanding what they have to do and just, no, I have to program, I have to start typing. No. The most important step here is to make the proposed problem easy to understand. They must really know, they must really understand what they have to do. And the exercise lists are also a start with very, very basic and simple activities. Here, for example, we are talking about an activity where we start with the first list, a program to add two numbers. Just this. You get one number, you get another number, a second number, and you must sum them. There we go on the next exercise, the number 2, where we have to convert meters to millimeters. This is also an easy task, it's also an easy exercise, but we are increasing the difficulty step by step. Because the third point, this is increasing difficulty. In the beginning is very easy. Yes, it's easy. But we always work with activities with increasing difficulty in order to always keep the challenge. This is a kind of mechanic from gamification. I cannot work only with easy exercise because the student will lose his motivation. At the same time, if I create something extremely demanding at the beginning, the chance of giving up is very high. So, the increasing difficulty is the point. We start easily, we always increasing the difficulty. The first exercise in Python is to add two numbers, just this. But in the end, we'll develop a crude create, retrieve, update, delete code. Here, for example, we have some exercise with higher difficulty. They are in Portuguese, but basically we are asking for some complex exercises, tasks involving time, monetary values, temperature, conversions, and some others. With each new list of exercises, the difficulty increases. There are a total of 9 exercise lists. I just want to point out that this same approach that we use it for teaching programming, we are using the same approach to teach, for example, SQL. It's not necessary to install anything. We are using just an online tool. We are using just increasing difficult, starting small, step by step. The fourth point is collaborative work. Activities are not developed individually. Students always work in groups. They are always working and even encouraged to research, to Google it, to talk about activities and discuss the best solutions with their colleagues. Always collaborative work. When they go to work in a development team on an IT company, they will always work with other people. They will always do pair programming, and they will ask questions when they are not understanding something. That's why here in the college there is no problem on working that way here. They can discuss, they can talk, they can research, they can Google, no problem. So we always work together using online tools and always with teacher supervision. Teacher follow-up is important, it's very important. Students look for solutions, but we as teachers must always guide their work. The next point that we have on this pedagogical approach is to, as far as possible, we choose to work with tools and the practices that are used in companies around the world. So, Lattes is a Brazilian system where students register their data as researchers in academic life. It's important to keep used by those who want to, in the future, do a master degree or a PhD. And of course, we ask that they also always publish their code to repositories on GitHub. So everyone is encouraged to use GitHub from the first week. Guys, drink water, always. So all students created GitHub accounts. A lot of people didn't know how to use it, but we went through a process of encouraging a little by little, and all the teachers on the college do the same. Multidisciplinary. Our goal was to teach object-oriented programming, that's it. This was clear from the start, but our goal is also to get as possible to what happened when students start to work with development on an IT company, IT team. We know that in addition to a language, it involves knowledge of database, project management, agile, software engineering. We use software engineering, for example, to understand the scope and the requirements, the database to store, and the project manager to track development. So that's the challenge. Find a way to mix all these concepts and deliver something in the end. Our goal is always to, in the end, to deliver the software running and serve the customer. But for that to happen, just my cam. But for that to happen, there is a lot of work behind the scenes. After initial concepts and list of exercise with primary concepts, we move on to some more practical examples. And the last is all open and published. All source code for activities available on GitHub. The exercise lists and slides are also there. The classes were recorded and made available through a YouTube channel. The most interesting things that later I published a post on my blog explaining this entire process, and a few weeks later I received emails from students asking for help with activities and exercise. Students from another states here in Brazil. That's this. They effectively followed the classes recorded on YouTube, available on YouTube, and performed the exercise. People from other cities, from other states who studied at the other colleges also followed this project. And this was very rewarding. We had recorded lessons and some live lessons too, and these classes were also available on YouTube. The pandemic forced us to adapt our process and the way of learning, the way of working, the way of teaching. But in the end, it seems that we managed to extract the best of this situation. This is the page where I published on the blog and had a lot of visits, several people asking help and using our proposal. This is one of the YouTube lists from the last year. There are many classes divided by section, organized by sections. One of the intermediate exercises develop a tic-tac-toe. Here in Brazil we call Jogo da Velha. There is no intelligence here in computer decisions, only a position. But even it required to use vectors, conditionals, and the other language resources. This is another activity aimed to use a Brazilian public web server to search exchanged codes. This activity was simple, consultation only, but in the final activity, later in this type of query will be used in other contexts. So here we are consuming, using a web service, a public web service. So this is a CRUD. Why it's used? It's used to create, retrieve data, update, or delete. I am always saying that building a CRUD is a way to show proficiency in a technology and a language by joining a programming language with a database system and being able to record, to retrieve information, to list, to update the data. The student will have the basic knowledge of data manipulation. So that's it. Here we have some books. My books are available on Amazon. We have 4 books, and here is my website where I have all my network, Twitter, LinkedIn, GitHub, YouTube channel, and that's it. Our main point here was to share with you all our work as a teacher, where we used a lot of Python to teach in a better way. So our main point here in this talk was education, but education with Python, always trying to solve the problem using a professional approach, using tools that are always used in IT teams, IT companies. That's it. I would like to thank you again for the opportunity to talk here at Conf42, and thank you for your patience to be listening to me. And sorry for any mistake I made in this process, because English is not my main language. That's it. My name is Tiago Bacciotti. and I'm here to help you if you need any doubts. If you have any questions, please reach me out. We can share more knowledge, we can learn with each other, and especially to that teachers, college teachers, school teachers that have some help. Our main objective, our focus is to always encourage the use of gamification mechanics, encourage the use of a better pedagogical approach to teach, aiming that our students will always have a better understanding on a practical way, but also with a theoretical basis. That's it. Thank you very much, and I hope that you always like this content, the content of this talk. Thank you, guys.